And action. Good.
Part 2. Again.
Jiminy
Cricket ran into the door. I mean, the chair.
Did you?
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right.
Back.
Again. Okay.
We just recorded like a whole video.
We did. And the phone didn't save it.
Not save it.
It is what it is, though. It's practice, though.
But we're running through it again.
Right.
Right.
So we'll give you guys a gist, okay?
All right.
Second video on our podcast. Still doesn't have a name. We're contemplating a name, but we don't have a name.
Right.
We haven't really announced this podcast. We just kind of put it out there. Whatever happens, happens. We'll work on the other stuff. And we really use these as therapy sessions. Not so much. We get to important stuff.
We talk about important things.
Yeah.
But it's really more just like
us
letting
chopping
it out.
Up.
Yeah.
I might bring a drink or something next time.
Right.
Some snacks.
Drinks
Drinks
on Danbury.
on Danbury.
We'll throw that one in the bucket too.
Just in case. I'll write that one down. So, there's 3 topics today, right? First one is how we met. The second one is how we got here. And then we'll throw in a random question based on the topics we discussed in the last video.
Yep.
That potentially could lead to conversations. We try to keep these short, 30 minutes, no longer, if the phone allows us.
Right, praise God.
Hopefully. And welcome back. If it's your first time here, go back and watch the first one, and then come watch this one. But in the meantime, we'll do these once a week. Mm-hmm. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
Cool?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did I already say what the 3 topics were?
You did, sir.
Did I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did we meet?
By the way?
Oh, yeah, I call her a lot of things. But when people ask her name, I say Jessie. I don't really say Jasenia.
Yeah. And I
like the name
formally introduce myself with my real name. And then when somebody usually gives me I'm like, Jessie's fine. Jessie's fine.
Oh, and I'm Jose.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this, don't leave me out of the equation.
I was getting there.
Okay.
All right.
So how did we meet? And try to
speed it up.
No, I didn't say speed it up.
Oh.
Just
don't prolong it.
Yeah.
Or ramble.
Yeah, right.
Don't
ramble.
Yeah.
Right. You want me to nudge you?
Yeah. When it's like.
Because we could always edit these, but just uploading them is so much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we met many years ago.
For the first time?
Yeah.
It was
8-9 years ago?
Summer of 2015.
Oh. Look at you knowing. Food criminal over here.
I still got it.
Flush it a little bit.
Stop it.
So we both work in finance. We both were working at the same financial institution. One day, left my wallet, and I needed cash. So I literally called one of the managers that was at the branch that was nearest to me, which happened to be his branch. So I happened to just run in there and I was like, hey, I need some cash. Didn't have my wallet or ID or anything like that. And that's when this one over here spotted me.
That one.
He did not do that.
I did it in my head.
I walked up. I was doing the transaction. I just said hi to everybody since, we all worked at the same financial institution. It just was not my branch. So I said hi to everybody, and that's pretty much where it went for me. And then I said bye to everybody, and then I left. However, you, on the other hand, had a whole different conversation.
I didn't have a whole different conversation. I just, I asked who you were, right? And there was one of the managers had been there 20, 25 years at this point. I don't remember how long it was. And she said, that's one of the good ones. Don't corrupt her. Don't ruin her, or something along those lines. I didn't know what that meant, but I still don't know. Still don't know what that means. But I can assume I know what it means. So yeah, after that, we didn't cross paths again for maybe 3 years, 4 years.
3-4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I came to help out at the branch that he was then working at, because he was at one branch, then went to another branch. So I went to assist there as manager. And when I went there, just again, hi everybody. Then I saw him and I was like, oh, he's kind of cute, right? I'm like, oh, whatever, here to working around. And then I think it was the second day or something, his actual manager made a comment to me. It was just oh, Jose gets nervous near you. when you're around, and I'm like, no one's paying any mind to anybody. Like, we're fine. Like,
Again,
everything's fine.
probably true. I can't confirm nor deny, but probably true.
Um, and then so Jose made a comment and was like, I don't know where my coffee's at. He was at in one of the offices or desk, and he was like, I don't know where my coffee's at. And I was like, and I remember seeing where it was at. So I just got up and I was like, yeah, let's test this theory out if he does get nervous. So I grabbed his coffee and I brought it to his desk and I was like, oh, I found your coffee.
You brought my coffee to test the theory that I would get nervous because we were interacting?
Yeah. I wanted to see if it was true.
Okay.
So I kindly was like, oh, here's your coffee.
Thanks.
He did not snatch it from me. He was like, thank you.
Okay.
And then that was that. Again, we were working, and I think it was the last day I was there, which was either that evening or like a couple days after. Yeah. Like everybody, the branch was closed. We're all like kind of standing around. Mm-hmm. And then I was telling the manager that was there at the time about this diet that I was going to start. I think it was like the carnivore diet or something of that nature. So showing it to cheeseburger diet. I was
cheeseburger diet.
Going into details about that. And then Jose was like, can you send that to me? So it was, I literally had it up on my phone. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I hit the button for it to go into a message. So I just handed my phone off to him and I was like, here, put your number in and I'll just send it to you. Didn't think anything twice about it. I was just like, wants it? How else was I going to give it to him, right? So I was like, there you go. And then after that, we just started talking. And then the following year was...
Yeah, so that was May of...
19.
Yes.
And then...
we were dating by August of 19.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as of, obviously, 2020, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And we technically were quarantined together. So when that all hit, we had to quarantine together. And ever since then, I've been right here with you, buddy.
No, but it's... Again, it's true because...
it could have been a hit or miss. If you really think about it.
It could have 100%. But like I remember thinking in March of 2020, like March 23rd or something, something along those lines of...
It was.
You can't leave your house. Like, I remember like that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And it was either you went home and I didn't know when I was going to see you again, or like you just came over and like we would wing it or play it by ear. Right. So
we
again, like
to wing things.
We improvise like the best of them. But again, it leads to the conversation of when that happened, you either had to adjust to the fact that you were going to see this person at all points in time. Like that. Like, what are you doing? Or you resented the fact that you were going to have to see this person at all points in time. So to us, it was just like, why would you go home? You could just stay here. I was living with family at the time, but there was enough room, schedules. Yeah, there was no issue. Like there was nobody against her staying. It was temporary, right? Because the quarantine was supposed to end. And then, right. But from there, it's just like, hey, this makes sense. This isn't bothering us. We would have conversations, transparent ones, about goals and ambitions and what we want to do. And if this makes sense, it saves us money. Mm-hmm. Let's do this, right? I feel like that's so cliche millennial, but it
worked.
It worked. Yeah. Stay here, save up cash. And, when it's time to do something and the world opens back up, like, are you ready to do so? Right. So the next point was, how did we get here? Right. So after that, in March of 2020, fast forward a few months to the summer, it seems like we do a lot of things in the summer.
Yeah. It's like I think we start getting itchy or something. Or like, let's do something now.
It's like seasonal depression like fades off. And now it's just like, let's do something.
We're ready.
So 2020, obviously, with the pandemic, couldn't go on vacation, right? So we had 3 vacations scheduled for 2020. Didn't get to do any of them. Mm-hmm. Middle of the summer of 2020, we're having a conversation with a friend. We're sitting outside, hanging out. It's nice out, whatever. Friend drives by, stops, comes to us, and she was going through some personal situations. So she showed us a listing on Zillow and says, I want to buy this house. It was a house literally about 5 minutes from where we were currently staying. So I want to buy this house, but my realtor says my credit isn't good enough. You guys should buy it. I'll rent it off of you. Right. So that's the first, like, what I consider a checkpoint in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Because from there, it was just like, that's actually not a bad idea. So this entire conversation and the storyline and the journey starts really at that point in time where that conversation happened. And we went to the drawing board. We talked about it. Does it make sense? Is this something we can do? We have good credit. We always bragged about our credit. We always talk about our credit. We make decent money. Like, what are we waiting for, right? And you have all this money you would have used on vacations. Now you can't use it. Can you put it to something else? Sure. So we did, right? The person ended up not moving in. We ended up finding a tenant for the place, renting the place out. And that's when essentially the floodgates open to knowledge, where it was just you learn so much after the fact, right? Don't tie up two people's credit, tie up one. Do a multifamily instead of a single family. If you're going into real estate, if you're not going into real estate, then you buy yourself a house, you live happily ever after in that house and call it a day. So from there, what ended up happening is we used that year, right? We closed July of 2020, right? So July of 2020, we closed. 3 months, maybe 6 months after that, I was back on the phone with my realtor, right? Actually, pause. Different realtor. So we had one realtor for the first property. Second property was a different realtor we came across on the internet. And I'm on the phone. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to do. What are our next steps? And she said, okay, cool. Like, we'll get the ball rolling. So 6 months after that, now we're a year into owning our first property. We were on vacation in Malta, beautiful island in the Mediterranean. Highly recommended. But anyway, we were on vacation up there, and constantly she was sending us listings, Zillow, Redfin. I still get notifications every day, all day, every day. So one came in. I was in Malta, really liked it, really liked the area it was in. It was close to the other property. So from Malta, we scheduled. I sent her an email. I said, hey, this is when we get back. Like, please schedule a showing for when we get back. We did just that, right? So came back. We went and saw it. We liked it. Put in an offer. Offer got accepted. So that's 2 properties in.
2 for 2 right now at this point.
2 for 2, right?
At that point.
And we are now at the summer of 21. Was the closing. It was like October of 21. After a year. And then a few months of, obviously, negotiations and all that stuff. But October of 21 was the closing on the 2nd, I'm sorry. Then in 22, we were laying at home. We wake up again in the summer. Like June, July of 22, wake up Sunday, which tends to be our only like real free day, right? Sometimes Saturdays get caught up with work or other stuff. And I get a notification from Zillow bright and early, 11 o'clock in the morning. Hey, if you're not doing anything, there's an open house near you from 1 to 3 nearby. Nice neighborhood, area I've always wanted to live in. Hey, we're not looking right now. It is the next step, but we're not quite ready yet. We'll go look at the house. If we like the house, whatever we like about it, we'll take into consideration when we go look for our own place. Okay, cool. So pull up and walk in the house. The house is a little dated, right? There was some stuff that you could tell was still 80s and 90s about it. But overall, overall gorgeous house, right? Absolutely. And there were certain little signs that it felt like it almost like runs parallel, maybe in a different universe. This is what we would have designed our house to look like, or 40 years ago. The old owner had a Corvette. We're car people, so he had Corvette posters all over the garage. So the first thing I was like, car guy, right? We had a wine cooler. We were big on wine at the time. We stopped for fitness reasons, but there's little things in the kitchen that we liked. In the master bedroom, the closet had suits, which is what we wear to work. There was he had an office set up in one of the bedrooms. And we always wanted a home office. Little things like that we were just like,
kind of spoke to us,
right? So we spoke.
We called. This is nice.
We called our realtor, the realtor that helped us with the property before, and we were like, "Hey, I know this sounds crazy, but we're about 2 months ahead of the timeline we set for ourselves. But we really like this house, And she said, okay, well, I'll put you in contact with a lender, go through them. Like, we'll do everything we need to do. That lender came back and said it wasn't possible. We had our business was too young. Our rental income was too new, too soon. Because remember, we're doing all this in a matter of less than 2 years.
Right.
So the first lender was like, hey, it's not possible. Like, we're not going to be able to do it. So like, I'm panicking, right? Inspectors on the roof at this point in time. I'm in the house, getting the house inspected. My mother came with me to the inspection. So I was like, Mom, like, it's not going to work. Like, we got to pay for the inspection. Like, but the lender said it's not going to be possible. And my mother, who's a spiritual Hispanic older lady, goes, but does it feel like home, right? She gives you one of those, like,
think about this.
Spiritual
Just
questions.
feel it out.
Does it feel like home? And I was like, Mom, like, it doesn't work that way. Like, things have to line up.
Numbers.
And she goes, no, stop. Like, does it feel like home? And I'm so robotic. Like, I'm so, like, strategic that, like, stuff like that, unless you, like, hey, like, stop pause, like, think about this for a second, I'm going to be like, what are you talking about, Kobe Bryant? But anyway, so I stopped and I looked around, and it did feel like home. It didn't look like home at the time. That wasn't the point. The point I was so focused on the, checking boxes. I didn't stop and think if it felt like anything, but it did feel like home. So I was like, yeah, it did. Yeah, it does. And she said, okay, then everything's going to be fine. Right. So I called my realtor, told her it wasn't going to work out. And she said, no, I have a different lender. Have the conversation.
And we also had a conversation too. And we were like, it doesn't make sense. We know we can afford this. Like,
right.
It does, like, this doesn't make sense.
I called my accountant, right? Yeah. I called our accountant, and I was like, it doesn't make sense. Like, we report absolutely everything. It's all there. And he goes, if they don't find it, it's because they're not looking for it. It's not because it's not in the paperwork. Anybody who looks at the paperwork will be able to tell you that you guys are doing everything legitimately.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. So spoke to the realtor, who then recommended a second lender. And the second lender said, yeah, it's going to take a little work, but it's all there. It's 100% possible. And we said, okay, so let's do it. So we were done so fast with the process that then the seller came back and said, hey, if you guys are ready to close sooner, we'll knock X amount off the price of the house. And we said, we've been ready. So we were able to actually cut some, smack in the middle of the 2022 real estate market, get a deduction off the price of the house when houses were selling for X above listing value. So that's essentially now. So now 2 years later, right? That was 2 years ago in July 13th, 22 was closing date. So actually in a few days.
Yeah.
Right? So now 2 years later, we actually just put in an offer on another property today, like, as we're recording this, that we liked. And this is the second offer this time around. I think we put one in a few days prior to the first video. This is the first time we actually had an offer not get accepted. So the first offer last week, 2 weeks ago, didn't get accepted. The last 3 properties we've bought, first offer, accepted all 3. So now is when we're starting to feel like, oh, so this is what everybody else is experiencing, right? 7, 8, 9 offers, been on the market for X amount of time, or been searching for X amount of time, and haven't come up with anything. But like
and that's okay.
That's okay.
100%
yeah, that's
okay.
100%
because it's part of the journey. You're not always going to get accepted, right?
Right.
It's just, are you going to continue to keep looking for it? Do you have the drive to, like, keep going to showings and knowing what you're looking for and being okay? This is what we're willing to put for it, or this is what we're not willing to give for this property, or you know what, this is way overpriced, or whatever the case is. And it's just you have to be determined for it. You have to want it.
Right. And again, like, we know more than we would say the average person, whether it's in real estate, whether it's in finance and credit, like, you name it. So to us, sometimes we do need to realize that it doesn't matter how much there's certain things that are out of your control, right? 100%. So if you come across a house you really like and the offer doesn't get accepted, that's where I feel like most people are just like, no, this isn't for me, right? Or like, you get the 90-day window with your lender to find something, and then you would have to redo the app, the pre-approval, the pre-qualification, whatever the case may be, and that more people get, like, weeded out in that step of the process, or discouraged, or like showing after showing, you don't find something you like, and it's just like, no, this isn't for me. We'll wait a little longer. You can wait, but if the goal was to purchase a property, you're ready. You're already like knees deep. You might as well finish through, right? So the question, right? And hopefully this sticks through. The question I had for her, and this is the second time we're doing this video, but the question I had for her is instant gratification. What is it? How do you feel about it? How do you see instant gratification versus how do other people see instant gratification? And if you want, instead of having to come up with a question, I'll just tell you what I think about instant gratification after.
So instant gratification for me would just be like a small win or a small pleasure. So instant gratification, say, go get my coffee in the morning, right? Instead of making it, right? It's satisfying. Someone else is making it. I get it. It's made exactly how I like it. It's great. I enjoy it. That's instant gratification, right? But to me, instant gratification comes with a price, typically, right? Because again, like if you're just taking my coffee as an example, I can easily make coffee here. Even if I want iced coffee, I can take the 2 minutes to make it the night prior, right? Put it in the fridge, call it a day, and then in the morning just prep for it. Versus, okay, well, now I'm leaving work. I just want a coffee. I didn't make it last night. I didn't have a chance to make it last night. Go get it. And now I'm paying what? Some people pay probably like $8 for coffee. And that's an instant gratification. However, was it worth it? Was that like sips of the coffee worth the extra $5? Or, and again, not that I do it every day, but if that's something that I did every day, now it's $5 times what? 5-6 days a week? That's so considerate of you to ask. Nobody ever asked me that. You're so thoughtful.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about the fact that Google thought you were talking to her.
That's what I.
So okay.
I was on it.
About the coffee conversation, only because I feel like
different.
No, I feel like that's what everybody talks about is, this day and age it's impossible to buy a house, or maybe stop buying your coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Is usually the first thing people say, right? So I get the coffee conversation with the instant gratification. In no way, shape, or form, I know you didn't mean it in a way that was telling people that buy their coffee every morning to stop buying their coffee.
Right.
Because what I usually tell her is compromise somewhere else. If you need your coffee from Starbucks, Dunkin', Wawa, if you're outside of PA, you probably don't know what a Wawa is, but Quick Trip, if you're in Tulsa, Sheetz, or down south, I don't know what they have. But anyway, not the point. If coffee is a non-negotiable, which we have non-negotiables. These are things we're not going to compromise. I'm not giving this up. You have to compromise it somewhere else.
Right.
That's the only way it's going to work. The only way to build success, to build wealth, is to increase the gap between the money that comes in and the money that goes out. That gap in the middle is what's going to allow you to do whatever you want to do. So if you choose that coffee is a non-negotiable, I need my $5 of coffee from Dunkin' every morning to get me started, that's fine. Take that $5 from that and take it away from something else.
Absolutely.
Your groceries, your alcohol budget, right? Your snack budget, your going out budget. Yeah, right. And then from there, you'll be able to see that something is possible, right? The reason I don't like instant gratification is because you said there's always a price, right? There's always an opportunity cost. The opportunity cost to instant gratification is actually the delayed gratification, right? So if you don't get that coffee in the morning, once you're going to be like, oh, I didn't get my coffee. By 5 o'clock, you might actually say, hey, I survived my day without spending those $5. You do it a week, you save $25. Absolutely. At the end of the week, that saving of $25, assuming you didn't spend it somewhere else, is going to feel a lot better than the coffee on Monday morning, right? So on Monday morning, you're thinking, I got my coffee, it feels good. You feel good right now, right? If somebody says, hey, you just out for coffee, yeah, maybe the little voice in your head says, I didn't really need it, right? But you're not going to feel the gratification that you're going to feel on Friday afternoon if you skipped 5 days of coffee, unless you skip the 5 days of coffee and feel the gratification on Friday afternoon. And that feeling of I'd rather feel the gratitude later, to me is more important than I'd rather feel the gratification now. Because what you're doing is you're giving up what you would feel in the future. And Atomic Habits will teach you, the power of habit will teach you that when you add habits together, it's not 1 + 1 + 1. It actually, like, they exponentially grow, right? So from there, it's like, I didn't spend $25 on coffee this week. That $25 now got paid to a credit card, and you just paid a $25 payment on a credit card that would have taken you $25 more to pay off later. And that delaying the gratification is what makes things possible, because when you get to the end, you're not thinking about the coffee you gave up. You're thinking about the mountain you moved. Absolutely. And you didn't move the mountain without delaying that instant gratification. So I always bring it up because it's easier to eat out than it is to cook at home. It's easier to buy coffee than make coffee. It's easier to sit and watch TV than it is to hit the gym. Like, it's easier to...
It's an instant gratification.
Right, because you feel the happiness right then and there, versus, like, this is what it's going to feel like. It's easier to walk away from work, you're scheduled till 5, than it is to stay till 6 and be like, wow, I was really productive for that last hour because work slowed down, right? You're not going to remember you stayed an extra hour at work. What you're going to remember is that you accomplished what you were trying to accomplish. So in the now, you got to smack yourself out of it, is how I feel. And it sounds almost cliche, but to the person on the other side who's saying, at any point in time, like, delay your dopamine, delay your happiness, delay the satisfaction, delay the gratification, it's literally like one of the best nuggets anybody could have ever given me, because if not, you're going to live in the constant cycle of, I'm doing it now because it makes me feel happy now.
Yeah. Also understanding the cycle. So if you have a non-negotiable, you still have to compromise. People will be like, oh, well, that means I'm giving up. It's like, not necessarily you're not going to give it back. Right. It's a sacrifice though, right? So if you want this to get there, I have to adjust everything else over here. And it may not be a lot, but it's still an adjustment. And if that's what the end goal is, it's just making sure that you are staying disciplined and being like, you know what? I have to do this. I have to compromise it this way because this is a non-negotiable, whether it's someone getting their nails done, anything of that nature. It can be as simple as coffee, but it's just knowing, okay, if I need to get this and I know it's going to be X amount here, let me
take it off somewhere else,
right? That I may not feel as much, versus like maybe you need that coffee in the morning to like really start your day. It might be mental, or it might be you actually need it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it. And it's not that the instant gratifications don't feel good. Of course they do. But if there's long-term goals, the more gratifications you can delay, the more likely you will achieve your goal faster. That's really what it comes down to. But again, like, consider the non-negotiables and consider the compromises. I need my coffee. Okay, well, my coffee cost me $25 in 1 week times 4, $100 a month, right? Then I need to compromise $100 somewhere else because I'm building my coffee into the budget, and I'm not giving that up. Cool.
That's okay.
That's fine. But so yeah, so let's not ramble. That was good. Yeah, that was good, and it survived. Let's not push it. We'll be back next week.
Next week, maybe with a name.
And
if not, we'll just be
more
here.
topics.
More topics
on Danbury Drive. Cool. Any questions, comments? Leave them down. We'll probably finally put on social media that we have a podcast. Why not? Yeah. Put it in your bio or put it in mine. We'll see where it goes. But this is fun.
I like it.
I'm hungry. We'll figure it out. Toodles.